AskReddit. What was your worst sleepover experience during your childhood? Early 1990s. When I was a kid, I slept over at a buddy's house for the first time. The next morning we woke up and his mom made us cereal. The milk tasted hella sweet, even for my child taste buds. Something about it all seemed off. Just as my buddy finished his bowl of cereal, his mom came over and turned the bowl on its side to pour the leftover milk from the cereal bowl into a milk carton. The mom then did the same with hers. I felt my face turn red with shame and embarrassment and my stomach turn. Horrified and confused, I asked, "What is that? What are y'all doing?" He turned to me and Ed said, "That's our cereal milk." Turned out this sadistic frick and his entire family poured all of the leftover milk from each bowl of cereal back into a separate milk carton, specifically for cereal. I drank this entire family's backwash. Fricking cereal milk. Used cereal milk. Went to a friend's birthday party in 4th grade. About halfway through the night we decided to play hide and seek. Maybe 30 to 45 minutes later, all I know was it was a long ass time. I come out of my hiding place to find them playing on the Wii in the living room. They'd forgotten about me and thought everyone was found, so they moved on to the next thing without me. This happened to me once. I was hiding between two parts of a sort of modular couch that they had in their basement. I had put a blanket and some pillows over the top of the crack between them so it looked flush with the rest of the couch. I had a single crack of light which I used to look at my watch. Something like an hour passed with me crumpled up between the couch. Eventually, they forgot about me, started playing Wii. Funnily enough, while sitting on the exact couch I was at. Maybe an hour had gone by at this point, since I hid myself. A little while longer, and then someone mentions, "Hey, did Johnny_Swanee go home?" They agreed that no, I hadn't gone home, and that I had been gone since they started hide and seek. They started looking for me. They looked everywhere, except, of course, the couch they were sitting at the whole time beforehand. Another half hour might have passed. No sign of me. Keep in mind, I'm writhing in pain from the uncomfortable position I'm in. Quite literally crumpled between two pieces of furniture on a cold, concrete floor for well over an hour. Everything is hurting at this point. Once people start talking about leaving, I carefully emerge from my hiding spot without being seen and just sort of reintegrate myself with the group. They notice me and are pretty surprised. They commended my determination and we played more Wii sports. Funny part is I was in high school. Yeah, it felt bad to be forgotten for a little while, but it only made it so much better to be crowned the champion of hide and seek at the age of 16. Think it was around grade 3 or 4. I had a best friend with a big house and two parents who later divorced a couple years after. I'll say his dad was a huge garage dad, as in the guy had his own brand new fishing boat he cleaned every day in there. All his trophies, life relics, everything was in there. The floor of the garage was nicely carpeted and legit everything in there was spotless. Anytime I went over, his dad spent most of his waking hours in that garage. My friend, his brother and I somehow got into a water battle with the garden hose/super soakers. I can't really remember how or why it started, but as you can guess, we moved our battle into the garage and left the garden hose running inside. We must have left it running from lunchtime, and his dad didn't come home until 5 or 6. I'll never forget the absolute hysterical screams and wails my friend and his brother made to their mom, who was closing her eyes crying, begging for her to do something, while their dad was dragging them into that garage. The screams and yelling from the dad inside the garage continued for the entire hour it took for my parents to pick me up. They were beaten so bad, I don't think my friend could sit down for a solid week. I was meant to stay the night with a kid just a few doors down from my grandparents. He lived with his grandparents and his grandpa was a facilities manager at an upscale apartment complex, might have even been a country club, and offered to take us swimming for the day. His grandfather drops us off at the main pool and says he'll be back in a while. This pool was Olympic sized and simply had too many people, so we decided to explore and ended up at a smaller pool on the property elsewhere. We were swimming, having a good time and everything was great. That is, until he started a splash fight. We were going back and forth until he started screaming at me, top of his lungs, screaming at me, incoherent screams. He kept coming toward me and I was kind of laughing, kind of scared, and had no idea what was going on. He ends up cornering me and tries to push me under the water, still screaming. I wrestle myself free and hit him square in the nose. His nose starts bleeding like Niagara Falls and he started screaming Motherfricker repeatedly as loud as his lungs could muster. I got out of the pool and grabbed my things and started back for the front of the complex. The entire time this kid screaming the same word over and over. People are staring. People are trying to calm him down. He's walking after me like the goddamn Terminator. Hands at his sides in fists. This 4' nothing kid, covered in blood from his nose, just slowly walking after me, ignoring the entire world around him while screaming Motherfricker. I make it back to the front of the place and am desperately trying to get someone to let me use a phone to call home. No one will listen. They're enamored with the screaming kid who, by the way, is still lumbering after me. He's a bloody mess, nose running like a fountain, mixing with the water from when he got out of the pool. Looks like a walking murder scene. Out of nowhere, his grandfather appears and snatches him up and disappears with him through a door. What feels like forever passes, and I'm still trying to get someone to let me use a phone when his grandfather reappears and asks what happened, then tells me he has to take kid home and I can't go with them. They let me use the phone. My parents don't answer. I ended up getting a hold of my aunt who was still working and couldn't come get me for another 2 hours. The office wouldn't let me stay inside, so I was outside in the parking lot standing around waiting for her to show. Still having no idea WTF happened. Aunt shows up and off we go. Get home. Get my ass chewed for being 35 minutes away from home. I had no idea how long the car ride was at the time. A few days later my mom went to talk to kid's grandfather. She comes back to tell me we can't hang out anymore and she tells me he needs medication for keep him calm and they missed his dose that day and it wasn't my fault. Never saw him again. My parents sent me to spend the night with my friend. When I got home the next day my mom told me my dad moved out and they were getting a divorce. I didn't see my dad for 3 years. I feel like parents forget during their war that you're literally a child and way too young to cope with the hate they are spreading. I remember when I was 9 I heard my parents fighting and shouting at each other. They did it basically every day, so it was nothing new. While I was in my room, and after a few minutes my mother came and dragged me out of my room in the corridor where my father was with 2 suitcases and said, "Look at him. Look what he is doing. He is going to leave us." How pathetic, and I started crying and told him that I didn't want him to leave her. I just remember his eyes full of tears telling me that he was sorry and it's going to be okay, and I still have shivers thinking about this moment. I really hate my mother, or both of them, for dragging me in every fight they had. I really wish parents would use their brain more sometimes. I was invited to a birthday party in elementary. Everybody kept talking about the slumber party afterwards. I assumed I was also invited to the slumber party, so I brought my sleeping bag and pajamas. Turns out, nobody actually wanted me there. I cried in the host room alone for an hour or so, then faked being sick and had my grandma come pick me up. This unlocked a memory I had from elementary school. My mom said I was invited to someone's birthday party, and I got super excited as we'd moved recently into a neighborhood with basically no kids. My mom and I spent the morning at the store picking out gifts. I was for sure he would like this pizza smelling Play-Doh and action figure. My mom drops me off at the party, and it was cool. They had this huge jungle gym their dad built. I don't really know anyone. Kids I barely knew through Sunday school, and I'm kind of keeping to myself. Well, soon after the birthday kid stops me and asks me why I'm there in front of other people. He then told me that when he told him mom to invite me, it was actually for another kid with the same name in our class. The kid's mom got onto him, but at that point I'd lost interest in being there. During gifts it turned out that it was a dual birthday party for the brother and sister. So when it got to my gift the same shit kid asked what gift it brought for the sister. So I said it was the pizza Play-Doh since I knew it she liked pizza. Made that up, but it was a pizza party. In a hoe. My mom eventually came by to pick me up, and when she asked me how it went I just lied and said it was a lot of fun. Didn't want her to feel bad. I've already commented, but frick it, when I was like 14. I was at a big group sleepover with my friends. The mother of the girl who was hosting it was really strict about health, and she told us that we couldn't order any pizza until we'd eaten the massive fruit platter she'd prepared for us. No one was touching the platter other than taking a few pieces to snack on. It was getting late, the pizza place would be closing soon, and her mum was not budging about her rule. Someone needed to step up. That someone was me. I started absolutely devouring the fruit platter, shoving pieces into my mouth and swallowing them without chewing. This was a platter for like 8 people, but I was a woman on a mission. We did end up getting pizza, but I got so sick I spent most of the night throwing up in the toilet. I couldn't even enjoy the pizza cause I was so full. We were 13, I would guess. Normally I would always stay at my friend's place, but this time we stayed at mine. My parents took us to the bar, which was something people did at the time. Well, my father decided to get blackout drunk and us two 13-year-olds were stuck in a bar from 8 PM until 1 AM. It was getting pretty uncomfortable between the parents and even some of the other people in the bar, cause well kinda shitty to have a couple of 13-year-olds in a bar on a Friday night at 1 AM. So when my father got up to use the bathroom, my mom grabbed us and we ran out to the van. He came out screaming through a beer and was banging on the van screaming all sorts of obscenities. Well, we get home, get some dinner finally, and my mom goes to bed. My friend and I decide to watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit in the living room, which I never got to use, but hey, dad is gone. Well, an hour later he shows up and he just sits on the couch and smokes pot until falling asleep an hour later. So we sneak off to my room and my friend's parents picked us up to stay at his place. And that was the last time I ever had a friend over.